Hey guys, welcome to Cape and Cowl Cafe. I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be talking about the brand new Spider-Man Noir TV show. If you guys enjoy the video at any point today, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button, but let's hop right in. Also, there will be spoilers for the entire show, so if you haven't seen it, go away. I don't know. Let's get started. Alright, so I don't really have a script written today, so this is just going to be more of a casual yap session, but I just wanted to give you guys my overall thoughts on the show. And I think it's pretty good, you know? It's not perfect, it's not the best, there are definitely issues with it, but overall, I enjoyed it. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna go into some positives and negatives, and then maybe some more detail, but the first positive obviously has to be Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly, Spider-Man Noir. Now, when the show was first revealed, my initial thoughts were, like, how is this gonna work, okay? Like, Nicolas Cage is getting up there in age. How is he going to play a superhero, let alone Spider-Man, one of the most flexible and acrobatic characters in fiction? You know, he's got to be flipping around and stuff. How is this going to work? Well, when you turn your brain off, it works, okay? Obviously, there is a stunt performer in the suit for like 80% of the show, but Nicolas Cage does a really good job, especially as the private investigator Ben Reilly. That side of the show is really well done. And then the Spider-Man Noir stuff, like, there's kind of a weird separation. Like, you can tell that it's a different person in the suit, and obviously, like, they don't feel like the same person. And maybe that's done purposefully, where Ben Reilly, as the PI, wants to hide, you know, how incredibly powerful and acrobatic he is. And so he's just, you know, playing the part of the old man who can barely walk around. Every time we see Nicolas Cage crawling through a window or something, like, he just flops onto the floor. He acts like it's the hardest thing he ever did. But then when we see him as Spider-Man, you know, he's swinging through the city. How you'd expect Spider-Man to do that. So, like, maybe it was intentional, but it just feels a little off. I don't know. Now, if this were any other Spider-Man variant, I would say Nicolas Cage is the wrong man for the job, but he fits in perfectly with this 1930s noir style. Like, it just works, you know? But honestly, the whole aging up thing kind of works because this Spider-Man Noir is at the very end of his career. He's tired. He doesn't want to do this anymore. Also, I'm not sure if this is the Spider-Man Noir from the Into the Spider-Verse movie. I think it might be. At the beginning of the show, he mentions that somebody once asked him what universe this was, and he found that to be very weird. Like, that implies that he's been interacting with people from the multiverse. And, I mean, some people might say, like, oh, but his name's Ben Reilly, and in Into the Spider-Verse, it's Peter Parker. Yeah, but like in this show, they mentioned that he changed his name, and it's implied that it was once Peter Parker. So it definitely could be the same Spider-Man. I'm not sure. If there's evidence for or against it, let me know in the comments. That would be really helpful. I don't know. Now, this show's plot is pretty interesting. There's not really any world-saving stakes here. The conflict is very personal. It's just about Ben Reilly getting involved with people that he probably shouldn't, and now he has to face the consequences. And the main person that he gets involved with is Kat Hardy, who obviously is supposed to be some kind of alternate version of Felicia Hardy. Since this is like a separate thing for Marvel, this is done by Amazon and Sony, I'm pretty sure they're not allowed to use specific names, so they couldn't use Electro. I don't think they can really even call Flint Marko Sandman that often. Lonnie Lincoln was never referred to as Tombstone, so I feel like they have to change some of the names around, which is also why Spider-Man Noir is called Ben Reilly in the show, as they couldn't go with Peter Parker. That makes sense to me. I don't really care about this change. You know, they're going to swap some things out for this alternate universe. Totally fine. But anyway, Kat Hardy was one of the standouts for the show. She did an incredible job. And I really liked the internal conflict that she had with being in love with somebody who was in the gang, but still wanted out and didn't want to be controlled by Silvermane anymore. It was perfect, all right? However, I did think it was kind of weird to see old-ass Nicolas Cage making out with this, like, 30-year-old woman. It was kind of weird, you know? Like, it's just one of those things that kind of takes you out of the show a little bit, but whatever. Now, some of the other positives when it comes to characters would have to be Robbie Robertson and Ben's assistant, Janet. I loved this trio. Their dynamic was so fun. They bounced off each other really well. They had great chemistry. And I love how all three of them were doing things to advance the plot. You know, it wasn't just like Ben Reilly and then his friends, you know, who did nothing. Janet wasn't just sitting in the office all day doing nothing. Robbie was very important to the story. He even suited up as Spider-Man Noir at the end of the show to cover for Ben. Like, these characters cared deeply about each other, and they, you know, were getting up to all kinds of hijinks just to, like, help each other out. It was really nice. Now, when it comes to the villains, I liked some of them. Now, the first villain we see, Addison, the fire guy, we don't get to see him much because he dies pretty much immediately. Like, he shows up, Ben and this other PI are chasing him, and then there's this little confrontation. The other PI shoots him, and he's dead. Like, that's it. But his death is kind of what starts off the whole show, it is this catalyst event that starts this like kind of gang conflict. You know, Silvermane wants to know who tried to burn his house down. He finds out that there's a mole in his organization, and he wants to start recruiting all of these superpowered thugs for his personal army. So his death kind of starts off the whole thing. And then we have Sandman and Lonnie Lincoln. I really liked Sandman. He had this really interesting personal conflict. He obviously hated himself and didn't think that he deserved all of the good things that were coming his way. You know, he had money, he had respect, he had a good job. Well, as good, you know, as being a mob enforcer can be. And he was in love with Kat Hardy, and she loved him back. Like, he was pretty much set up for life, except, you know, of the superpower. So he saw himself as a freak. He didn't think he deserved all this. And I thought that conflict was really interesting. And, you know, he was pushed into doing horrible things because he just thought that that's what he deserved. Lonnie Lincoln, I thought was pretty well done, except I didn't really feel like his turn to villainy was very convincing. You know, like, he made it clear that he did not want to be a criminal. He wanted to stay with his mom. He just wanted to keep being a good man, and he didn't want to fight for the white man. Like, that's what he said. So then after a brief conversation with Sandman, he goes and does the exact opposite. Like, I don't know. Like, it felt like his motivations were just kind of turned around when they shouldn't have been. I don't know. I expected a bit more from him. He was still really good. Now, the other two main antagonists just really didn't work for me. The first one being Silvermane. Like, he just, I don't know. The thing with him is I don't think he was as intimidating as he could have been. That's pretty much it. Like, if you're a mob boss, if you're controlling the whole city, you're intimidating the mayor, you're controlling these super powered freaks, I expect you to, like, you know, be a scary man, but this guy really wasn't, you know? And so when he died at the very end of the show, it didn't have the payoff that you would expect it to. Like, they were trying to portray him as if he was the kingpin of this universe, but I didn't really get that vibe. Now, the worst character in the show, and the most annoying, is the great value electro guy, Megawatt. Layden Dirk, I think his name was. He was just the worst. Like, he would never shut up. And the thing is, he thought he was so cool. Like, this guy thinks he's like the baddest villain on the block, but he's not. He's just a weird theater kid, and all of his dumb little poetic monologues, like, he thought he was sounding like Dr. Doom, but he just wasn't. And like, every time he opened his mouth, it actively took me out of the show. Like, it broke the immersion. I was remembering that I was watching an actor do an acting job, and the job, it wasn't a very good one. He wasn't doing a good job. He was just terrible. With him, it's kind of like all the other characters are still doing their 1930s, like, New York impressions and like their accents and stuff, but they're kind of reining it in because obviously this is the modern day, and a lot of that, you know, old-timey speak is a little silly, but this guy was leaning too far into it to the point where it feels like he's doing a satirical impression and he's not trying to act like he's from that time. He was doing too much. Now, when it comes to the action scenes, most of them are pretty good. I do like the fight scenes with Spider-Man Noir, especially the one in the bar. I like all the swinging scenes. Anytime we see him, like, really using his powers, like the fight against Lonnie Lincoln, that was great. However, there are a few fights where it's just like a small fist fight on the street and there's like a crowd around. Like, I think it's both fights with the Electro guy. And I'm like, dude, why aren't you swinging around? Like, why aren't you doing your Spider-Man stuff? You're just standing on the ground trying to punch this guy. Like, I don't know. It felt like they kind of ran out of the budget in those scenes, and so they had to keep it really grounded. Also, like, in terms of power scaling, now, I think power scaling is stupid, but it is important to establish a certain, you know, level of power that a character is capable of in their own universe. You know, I could not tell if this guy had super strength or not, you know, this Spider-Man, because for most of the show, he's struggling to do a lot of things. He feels like a very grounded, more human Spider-Man. But then in the season finale, he's like throwing two cars together to smash Sandman and like into a pile. Like, how? You know? I don't know. It might just be me. I just felt like his feats and, like, you know, what he was capable of was very inconsistent. Sorry about this really unprofessional rant, you know, like, I don't have anything prepared, so this is just how the video is going to be. Now, one of my favorite things about the show has to be the character arc that Ben Reilly has. All right, throughout the show, he doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He wants to give up, and like, his thought process is, if I don't have the power, then I won't have the responsibility. So he tries to find ways to get rid of his powers to stop being Spider-Man, and I think it's a really interesting twist on that classic Spider-Man mantra, with great power comes great responsibility. I thought that was incredibly well done. And then by the end of the show, he accepts that he's Spider-Man. He's not happy about it, but he's like, you know what? This is the right thing to do. This is what Ruby would want me to do. So I'm going to do it because, not because I think I'm a good person, but because it has to be done. I think that's great. Not every hero has to be super enthusiastic about their role as the city's protector. He's a very reluctant hero. That's made very clear, but it still works. Okay, I'm just zipping around between topics, but let's talk about the suit. The suit is really good. Okay, it's very grounded. It doesn't quite fit right, but I think that's intentional because it's supposed to look, I don't know, it's supposed to look unfinished, old-timey. The mask is definitely the best part. It's obvious that he's wearing a face shell because there's one scene where he's not wearing the face shell, and it's really obvious. It's the bar fight where he lifts the mask up after. It just looks kind of silly, but for the rest of the show, it looks great, Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier. I watched it in color instead of black and white. I just prefer things in color, I'm not going to pretend to be some kind of performative prick and be like, well, actually, you have to watch it in black and white because that's the original intention of the director. I don't care, okay? I just wanted to see it in color. Sue me, I guess. Let's see, what else is there to talk about? The music was great, the visuals, I loved the action, the plot, and the story. I really liked how they tied in the World War I stuff to Ben Reilly's backstory and the backstory of all the villains. I thought that was great. There was a lot of body horror. Well, kind of a lot. There was some really gross stuff in the show. The whole dream sequence when Ben Reilly was drugged by the doctor and all the spiders were crawling out of him, and then the man spider guy that bit him and gave him his powers. That was disgusting and just straight up horrifying. And then we have some of the classic Nicolas Cage spaz acting, where he's just acting like a weirdo. It's like he's pretending to have Tourette's, honestly. Sometimes that's how it comes off. And okay, I expected it. It's Nicolas Cage. He's gonna do that. He's gonna do his thing. But overall, I think the show was great. Everything about the show works for me, except that some of the actors aren't doing a very good job. But the ones who need to do a good job are doing a good job, so it's fine. The main trio works. Some of the villains are great. And then you have people like Silvermane and the weird Electro guy that just really drag it down. But overall, pretty solid show. So I'm going to give Spider-Noir a 7.5 out of 10. Alright, that's going to be about it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe button and drop in the comments down below what you thought of Spider-Noir. Let's talk about it. Also, if you guys could go ahead and hype the video, that would really help me out. And if you want to join my Discord, the link will be in the description below. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later.